Okay, thanks for starting up the recording. Whoever did that. Thank you everyone for joining us for the final session of the Open Texas 2021 meeting. My name is Nathan Smith, and I am going to be moderating this session with several of some student panelists who are going to share with us their experiences. I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. So in order kind of to just introduce them to you, I'm just going to have them go around and introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about who they are, where they are in their education process, their journey, and you can get to know them a little bit. So we'll start with you, Brooke Robinson.
There we go. Yeah, I couldn't unmute. There we go. So my name is Brooke Robinson. I go to San Jack. I am a dual credit high school student in 10th grade. I'm in my first year and this is my second semester at San Jack. I'm going to hopefully get my associate's degree by the end of high school and then go on to get my BSN. And that's a little bit about me.
Thanks so much, Brooke. And I totally forgot to mention two things. One, if you want to go up to the right-hand side of your Zoom screen and select a grid view, you'll be able to see all of us at the same time. The second thing is we are doing live captioning, and you can turn that on at the bottom right of your screen with the CC button. So wanted to make sure to let you know that. Okay, on to Lana.
Hi, I'm Lana. I'm on the same boat as Brooke. I'm a dual credit student, and this is my second year at San Jacinto College. I'm currently enrolled in 2 open educational resources classes, my sociology and cultural anthropology class.
Okay, and the next one, Maria. Let's see here. I might need to unmute you. Hold on a second, Maria. You're gonna be good. Good.
Hi, hi there. My name is Miss Maria. That's what I like to go by because I will be in education for the next 40 to 50 years. My journey right now, it's been a bit of a rocky one, but I'm currently at Houston Community College. I'm majoring in education, and hopefully I'll be an administrator in a few years, right? So in general, that's where I'm at, and you know, I've had a pretty nice journey with open educational resources. So I'm really excited to talk about them and the benefits that they provide to our students. I'm very interested in advocating for anything that's education, really. I'm a nerd for any educational thing. So yeah, it's nice to meet you, and I can't wait to talk to all of you. I'm a sophomore, by the way. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maria. You're great.
Yes.
Latisha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Latisha Brooks. I have been out of school a very long time. My baby is 32 years old. This is this is all very, I guess you can say I'm starting over. I'm a freshman at Houston Community College, and this has been wonderful for me. Like I said, it's all new because school was different back in the late 70s, early 80s. So let's just say that I'm on a wonderful roller coaster ride, like Astroworld. So this is exciting for me. So this is a great journey for me, and I'm in my 50s. So let's just say I'm having the time of my life right now. Oh, I'm sorry. I am studying sociology, and my goal is to actually transfer to University of Houston downtown and get my Bachelor of Science in sociology.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Latisha. And Christine, Mom Point.
Sorry, I'm babysitting and like trying to balance a bunch of other things, but I appreciate this opportunity again, Dr. Smith. Hello, my name is Christine Monpoint, and amongst a lot of different things, I represent Houston Community College as the district student government president. When we talk about like my educational journey, I've been a community college student for 5 years, finally graduating in May. A lot of that is attributed to challenges like with textbooks, like we're talking about today, health, physical health, mental health, and just like trying to figure out like what I want to do. Very similar to Maria, I am an education enthusiast. I'm actually the Higher Education Policy Fellow for Young Invincibles. And so I've really been diving into education and figuring out how we can do more to help students and put more legislation that will help students. So this is really, really exciting. And thank you again for having me in this panel.
That is great. Thanks you all for introducing yourselves. So I want to kind of just start by talking about textbook costs and how purchasing textbooks has either impacted your behavior in college. Have you delayed registering for classes? Have you dropped classes that you were trying to take? And I'll go ahead and turn this to Maria first. Maria.
Can I? Oh, there we go. Yes, definitely. As far as getting textbooks, price for me has always been very important. I like to say I'm from the ground up. Okay, my parents had no money to send me to college. When the time came, I always knew I wanted to go, thanks to a program that was at my high school, and they intervened. But I'm the first one to go to college in my family, so it was a big deal. And with courses, for example. The science courses, they tend to have textbooks that are like the interactive ones, like the Pearson textbooks, and they do tend to cost a lot more. With the prices being so high, like per semester, you usually pay up to $400 for textbooks alone, and so that's almost the cost of a course at HCC. And so if I can't afford to take another course, I can't really afford to pay for all these extra textbooks. So it has definitely affected me in that sense. And just being a full-time worker, it's hard. I really have to be careful where my money goes. And sometimes the textbook just isn't enough of an incentive. I'm like, well, I can wait a little bit if it means I can eat, so that's where we're at with that.
Thank you so much, Maria. And Latisha, talk to us about how textbooks have impacted your choices in terms of taking classes.
For me, what I did when I enrolled in my classes, I looked at the price of the textbooks, because for me, we're Harvey survivors. We had to totally tear our home down and rebuild a home. And so when I began to register for school, I was actually just coming out of the motel, coming back home. So I had to apply for financial aid, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to get. So when I started looking at the classes, I looked at the textbooks, and I was like, okay, if I don't get financial aid, can I afford to take the classes? Can I afford the books? And the first thing I did was look at the amount of the textbook. And then I'm a heart patient. I have second-degree heart block. So I started looking at, am I going to be able to afford if I have to have a procedure done? Am I going to be able to afford the books? Then I started looking at, okay, what if I'm going to have labs? Being out of school so long, I have to call kids, and ask them, hey, what's this going to cost? What's this going to cost? So automatically, I started looking at these little symbols, and I start calling back to the school saying, now, what does this symbol mean? Does it mean that this book is going to be included in the course? Does it mean it's going to be cheaper? So when I began to look at the amount of the textbooks versus my courses, then I was like, okay, maybe I can afford to get this class because this textbook is going to be a little bit cheaper. So I started looking at the amount of the books that's going to be included with my class. And then I started looking at, am I sure I want to be a sociologist? Am I sure I want to take this class? And then I was like, why cheat yourself? Just do it. Something's going to work out either way. So I was like, okay, it's like a bird in the hand. You just start thinking about it. Like, is it really, really going to be worth it? In the long run, it really is worth it. So that's kind of how I saw it.
Thank you, Latisha. And so I want to kind of move on to this question about open educational resources. And I know some of you have had experience with using OER. What is it like to have the textbook available for you freely when you log into the course? So I'll start with Lana. I know you're taking a class right now that's using open educational resources. Why don't you tell us about that experience?
Okay, so my experience with open educational resources, it's been really amazing for me because in the past year I was in college, I didn't have any classes with open educational resources. And this year, if I ever went anywhere, the most transparent impact that it had was that I was able to bring it around to different places when I went. And I was able to, I was able to bring it around everywhere I went. So I have different devices like my phone and my laptop, my iPad. I use the OpenStax for my sociology class, and I was able to download it on all three of my devices. And anywhere I went, I was able to read those books despite the limitations of not being able to bring a traditional textbook or anything with me. So it was really helpful in that way. Also, bringing around the traditional textbooks, they're usually about 200 to like 600 pages from my experience, and that really kind of broke my back. And I felt like my backpack was gonna like break and all of my textbooks would fall out. So I guess having this online, I could just carry around my phone at the very least, and it would be so much easier and more efficient.
That's great. I know, Latisha, you had an interesting experience using online resources, for the first time. Can you describe sort of how that experience went?
When I first started, had educational framework, EDUC, and I'm gonna tell you, I was so scared. I had to download the book, and I was in a class with a lot of young people, and Professor Gardner was amazing because she knew that I was older, and I tried to front it off by having a young looking face, but your age starts showing after a while. So I downloaded this book, and um, I started reading the book. Well, when it was time to take, you have your book, but then you have to study, and then of course you have to go to your workbook, which is totally different from your actual class book. And so I'm grateful for having young people in the class. But what got me was as I was reading my textbook, I'm always taking notes. So I didn't realize that in my textbook, I felt like I had struck gold because I didn't realize that I could actually highlight in my textbook. So I had all these notes written down. Then I'm going back with my pen and I'm using another color pen to take all these different notes, not knowing you have a notepad in your book, you can highlight in your book, you can make all these notes. When I told this to my class, they weren't laughing at me making fun. They were like, Miss Tish, you could do all this stuff in your book, you didn't know it, So these kids were like, okay, what else don't you know that you can do in your book so that we can help you, because there's so much that you can do with your downloadable textbook, but a lot of us don't know it. When I say a lot of us, at first, I kind of thought that when you and I talked, Professor Nathan, that it was middle-aged people, my age. Then I realized that there may be just a lot of young people that also don't know that they can do this with their downloadable textbooks, but there's a lot that is offered to us in these downloadable textbooks that we're not aware of, but it was amazing to me. I'm telling you, I was calling my grandkids like, guess what grandma can do in this book? I thought I was doing something extremely special, but it was really, really amazing to me because it takes a load off. And like this young lady said, it's just amazing because that's a pretty big book if you think about it. And EDUC, it's an amazing course, but there's just a lot of information in it. And there's a lot that you can do with that textbook right there. And you don't have to pick up the highlighters. You don't have to use the pencils. You don't have to go back and write out anything. everything is accessible to you right then and there. Just log on, and do what you got to do, and then type those notes in. And when you go back to the book, it's there for you to study with. So everything I needed was right there. And it was great for me. And I mean, I forget a lot at my age because I'm getting a little bit older. So for me, it was great to have it and study it, and it's right there accessible to me.
Thank you, Tish. Brooke, you had a really interesting story about your using this OpenStax sociology textbook. Can you share?
Yes. So when it comes to reading, it's not my strong suit. I'm a very, very strong audio learner. I will sit there and look at this huge text and multiple things will go through my mind. First of all, I see there's words and I automatically start freaking out because I'm like, how long is the text? Am I going to forget everything by the time I read it? Because I would read a paragraph or even read an entire page and by the bottom be like, wait, what did I just read? And then have to read it again. And on bad days, I read that same page about 10 times before I even process what the words are saying. But the moment I figured out that I could highlight the words and hit Command S and have it read to me, I was able to grasp the concept of the textbook way faster. And I was able to move on and acknowledge what was being given to me. And then I was with Miss Latisha, I was like, and then I could highlight and write notes while listening. It was like magical for me because I couldn't do that with a normal textbook. You can hand me a 400 page textbook and I'm going to look at it and go, oh God, this is going to take me hours to read this one chapter. And then I'd get stuck. And so with open resources, I'm able to hear it and then be like, done.
Thank you, Brooke. I wanted to ask Christine if you could tell us a little bit about, I mean, you mentioned sort of, I know we talked Latisha talked about how she shops for classes and looks for the cost of textbooks and so forth. And at HCC, we've been trying to do this thing where we tag our courses. I know you have a really interesting perspective on this, and I wonder if you could talk to everybody a little bit about sort of how that process actually works in practice, how it's useful, and maybe some problems that occur with it.
Thank you. So I definitely think that when it comes to the HCC classes, and I know you did a presentation on this last semester, I feel like a year ago, Dr. Smith, but when you kind of explained to us the different like sections and the different tags that would come up under the textbooks, you would see whether it was a low cost book, a book that was included in the course, or just a zero book at all. And students were so grateful for that because it really allowed them to see exactly what was going on. I know that a lot of other institutions may have similar programs, but they're not easily identified. So students are being charged for books and they're not understanding like, wait, did I get charged for a book? Do I have the book? How do I access it? And I think HCC has done a really great job of making sure we understand what's going on. But there is a House bill right now in session. It's House Bill 1027 that is actually going to mandate the clarity on courses so that students know what they're paying for. I think some of the challenges is that students don't know that they can opt out of that, and so they're having to pay for it. They don't know what's going on. They're very confused, and that seems to be like the reoccurring experience for a lot of students at other institutions. I think just at HEC have been very fortunate, but I also know that students don't 100% understand what they're paying for. Like some of them are like, oh, so my textbook is included, and they think they're going to get something in the mail, maybe because their college has their address online, and then it's a digital book, and they're like, nobody communicated that to me. I'm a physical learner, like Brooke kind of said, like she needs like, different ways of learning, right? So students who are under the impression that they're going to get something may get something else. And then they're kind of frustrated because now they're like, okay, well, how do I get what I actually want or need? Like I'm okay with the digital book, but me personally, I would like the physical book to highlight, underline, those type of things. And so I think that while the inclusive access of a course that offers you a book for a discounted or no rate at all is very helpful, there definitely needs to be some stronger transparency so that students can understand what's going on.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Maria, I know you talked about how you definitely do shopping around for textbooks and appreciate the course tagging. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that. And also, like, I know we've talked a little bit about these access codes that sometimes come along with classes, or inclusive access classes, and how the courses charge the fee. And you had a story about your chemistry class that I thought was interesting along those lines. Would you mind sharing?
Of course. So yeah, seeing the little the orange bubble just makes me so happy. And personally, I've taken a few courses, and I don't know, all the ones that I signed up for next semester actually all have open educational resources. And yes, so with the chemistry course, what ended up happening is I joined this course, and we had to have a code. So this like Pearson code. And so it's almost like a system that you use in order to complete the coursework. And I just couldn't, like, it was weird. It was, first of all, it feels almost disconnected, right? And so because the deadlines are so hard, you know, like they're dead set. And especially with COVID, I feel like it's highlighted a lot about grace and giving grace to to students, and to, you know, from the professor. And so with this course, I did end up dropping the course weeks into it, but I had already paid for the book, you know, because we had to pay for the book, and there was no refund because it's not through HEC anymore, it's through this company. It's just a lot of stress. And so that was my experience with that. And I said never again. And that's why, you know, when I started finding out there's more courses, like the new chemistry course that I had signed up for after this one, then I was like, well, this is what I'm going to look for in the future. So, you know, you live and learn type thing, you know, it was a disaster, and then we moved on. Yeah, that was my experience with that. The professor was sweet though, but yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, really you said that. No, that's right. You wished you could have taken your class with the professor, but there were these other issues.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think, so I wanted to go on to another question.
Nathan, you're
Sorry,
muted.
you're muted. Yeah, you're.
Thank you. Okay, I'm glad y'all didn't hear that because I was just rambling anyway. So I actually wanted to go next to talk to Brooke about this process of signing up for classes with a fee. And I thought you had an interesting, like we talked about that. I thought that was an interesting perspective on that. So would you share with us kind of what you've learned about taking classes that had a fee assigned to it?
Yes. So last semester was my first semester at San Jack. It was a whole new playing field for me, and it was something that was a whole process kind of freaked me out in general. But as I was signing up for my classes, I noticed this little thing that said Barnes and Noble's something something, because there's the 3 little ellipses and you can't figure out what the rest of it says. You can't click on it. And there was a charge. I'm like, what are these charges for? That does not say a class. Half the things don't even say classes. They just say San Jack and then whatever campus it is. But I later found out that there's additional fees for the online textbooks. So I had 2 fees, and one fee was for my learning framework class and one was for my English. My learning framework class needed that textbook. So I understood that fee. It was online. It was an online textbook, so I understood that fee. But my English textbook, which was also online, it was not a required reading. It was an optional reading. And at the beginning of the semester, I was like chugging along. I'm doing all the things, checking all my boxes. But by the end, when I'm spent and I did not sit there and go do additional reading, especially if it's not my strong suit, but I paid for this textbook that I didn't end up using and I can't return because that's not really how it works. And I didn't even know I was really charged for it until I had to go back and look at it until recently.
It's really interesting. So I think, some of the things we're hearing is just transparency around these practices seems really important. I wanted to change directions a little bit and kind of talk about the teaching and learning experience with these textbooks. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is whether you feel like the textbooks in the classes that you've taken speak to your experience, like as a person, as a student. Or do you feel like they engage you with examples and images, a reading level and content that kind of speak to you? Or do they feel like they're written for someone else? And Lana, I thought you had an interesting story on this line, along these lines. So would you share?
So the class I want to talk about was my cultural anthropology class. My professor, of course, she's an anthropologist, so she really works on accepting other cultures, other opinions, any kind of differences that people have between groups. And so I had this one assignment that really helped me feel like I was able to express my opinion without getting judgment from others. It was a discussion board where we could put in where we would want to do field work. So I was able to put in a group and a place that I wanted to do field work in. And I didn't feel like I would be judged or anything because I felt like I was engaged with all my other peers who were also in the discussion board, and it helped me feel like I could express why I wanted to do field work there and why like why the culture was so interesting to me because all the other posts that I had seen, they were so diverse, and I felt like adding to that diversity wouldn't be anything that people would make fun of me for. And also, I recently had a lecture over racism, and my professor was really good at not just talking about the racial discrimination on one race, but she made sure to talk about many different races, and it helped me feel more engaged in that lesson. And she summarized the textbook from there, which is an OER textbook, and she made sure to add in things about different races, and I felt more engaged because it was something close to my heart when she talked about my race, and it helped me feel like I was like in the class with her, and I was more engaged.
Thank you, Lana. Someone else, Christine, maybe you wanted to chime in on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I attended Houston Community College, I attended another institution. Now I'm thinking about the story, I'm going to be vague, but I attended another institution, and kind of where the demographics of the institution was located was more on the rural side. And so you have a variant different opinions about politics, especially when you go from like an urban area to a rural area. And so a lot of the course materials I felt were very leaning towards one way, and they were based off of a solid book. There was no reference to other materials or anything online that we could connect to that teaching. And so when my brother took this specific course, the professor assigned a book that was based off of somebody's opinion. It really wasn't historical. And this was a political science class. Typically, you kind of see some definition base here and then some historical context. And, you know, you try to remain as neutral as possible in a political science area just as a professor. But it was very clear that this professor had strong opinions about a specific politician. And my brother was like, I feel very like I'm being forced to believe one way because we're not integrating the internet or you know, materials that are beyond this book into the classroom. I mean, there was no supplemental reading. It was just this one text. And so it was just kind of frustrating for me to hear that as somebody who is so passionate about higher education. And like, it was Texas government, which has a lot of amazing history, in my opinion, and that they really could have talked more about. But I felt like that professor was so glued to that particular book and her particular beliefs that it didn't allow every student in that class to really get the full scope of the issue. When I was giving an example in an earlier presentation about my experiences with the psychology OpenStax textbook, it was very definition heavy, but it did allow my professor to bring the examples to us and where we were at our current time, and not like things from like the past that were printed when the textbook was maybe an older edition or out of date. So I feel like being in a class that had open educational resources, and I've actually been in a few since then, I feel like it allows the professor to let us know how this older information or this historical information connects to what's actually happening now. I'm in an astronomy course, and like I was telling Dr. Smith this the other day, it was like, it wasn't like, oh, like Pluto's still a planet. It's like, no, it was a planet, and then it wasn't a planet, and now it is. So we kind of went through that whole saga of seeing what has happened over the last few years instead of like learning from something that is kind of out of date.
That's so great. So I want to So y'all, I don't know if y'all are monitoring the chat, but getting a lot of praise in the chat for you. And I know obviously you are, you really just bring a great perspective, and you all really care about your education. And I just think it really speaks to us as educators. So I wanted to kind of end the session with or I wanted to close out this portion with a kind of a general question for you. If you could ask your professors, you wish they would do one thing differently in using textbooks and open educational resources, what would that be? What would you like to see your professors do? And y'all, I do want to take some questions in the chat. So if you have specific questions for these students, drop them in there. We've got another 15 minutes or so. So as this round of questions goes through, please drop those in. So Maria, what's the one thing that you would like your professors to know?
So I do want to add something that I completely bombed my first year at HUC, just horribly. It was terrible. I was working 2 jobs at Fort Bend ISD. It's amazing. At Fort Bend ISD, I've built this great reputation for myself. Little did they know that when I would come home, I was bombing my classes that first year. And so, well, I'd like to think it's a great reputation. Anyways, one thing that I would say is allow yourself to be creative. And, you know, I have a lot of issues with curriculum as it is in Texas, specifically tech. That's why I don't want to move around district to district or go big. I want to stay at one district, change that district. And, you know, maybe 100 years from now when I'm gone, I have laid a good foundation to where future generations will continue changing the course of education for Texas. But in general, allow yourself to be creative, right? And I have noticed that with open educational resource, or whenever we're not tied to a textbook, the teachers tend to get a lot more creative. And so just allow that, you know, open yourself up to that. I don't think there's much of a stigma around it for professors. Maybe for students, some may think, oh, well, it's not as high quality because it's not expensive. We tend to, you know, equate money with quality, when in reality, you know, it's almost like a pair of shoes, right? It's, you know, a pair of shoes is a pair of shoes. It'll get you, or if it does its job and if it functions, then what's the issue? And so, especially hearing the experience of everyone else, that anthropology story is beautiful, because the same thing happened to me where I legitimately did not know race was not a biological thing until I entered college. Think about that. What? Race is not a real thing. And like, there's so much division and even like murder around this stuff. So that, and even with Texas history as well, like literally 2 weeks ago, I watched a documentary on the Texas versus Hernandez case. I'd never heard about that. I didn't know, I knew my people were a little I didn't know that we were literally like on signs and like the sunset cities. I thought that only extended to African Americans. Well, no, you know, the class apart case was like a big deal. And it's sad that I didn't know this. Like that's really depressing. And I think about, what if I had not come back, you know? Because when I came back, that first English class, they made us read Woman Hollering Creek, and that hooked me. You know, they represented me, and I was like, okay. And I kept going and I kept going. And so the more engaging it became, the more I wanted to come back. So, oh my gosh, am I rambling? But really allow yourself to be creative. Like seriously, that's the bottom line, because beautiful things happen, you know, not only for you, but for your students, you know, inside. Like you really, if you can pull at their heartstrings and really get them going, it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, I'll work on this elementary side, don't worry. And, you know, a few years from now, you'll start seeing these kiddos come in with critical minds. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Maria. Lana, one thing.
I wanted to tell my professors ever since I started my first semester at San Jack that I do go through all the pages of every single reading that I'm given. So even if it's like 10, 50, 100, 200 pages, I'll read through all of it and I'll take notes off of it, and it'll take a long time for me. I'm a very slow reader, and so whenever I read through those 100 pages, which is like the normal amount, it'll take me, I don't know, 2 hours to read, maybe 2.5. And so I found that in 2 of my classes, I was given very, very long readings. And then they told me it would be on the test and that I would need to know all of this stuff for the test. And then I went in to take the test and there was like 5 things from the textbook that were on the test. And I realized that I had spent that whole day studying over the textbook and all of my notes for no reason, because there was only 5 things on the test that was over the textbook. And I feel like if professors would be able to narrow it down, and I know a lot of professors are good at this, like I know my sociology class, she assigned us the textbook, but the test was very textbook heavy. And so I felt like my time was well spent. But some of my other classes, it just feels like I'm wasting my time reading the textbook, learning things that I don't need to know for the class. And so I think narrowing down the readings a little bit, if they know that their test isn't going to be fully over the textbook, I think that would be really helpful.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Lana. Brooke, what's one thing you'd like your instructors to know?
Before I say, Lana, when you said you had a 100-page reading and it took you 2 hours, if I had a 100-page reading, I would cry. Oh my gosh, I would cry so hard. Anyway, so the one thing I would ask is, I do have great professors who will assign a chapter, especially my sociology professor. She says, we read this chapter, you go to that chapter and it has all the links you need. It's perfectly organized and super easy to find things we need. But I have a history professor who's like, here's your textbooks links. I'm going to name the name of the links really, really, really fast. And then if you don't catch it, then you're either going to read too much or too little and hope you figure it out. Because I was like, can you just put the links in somewhere else, or send a simple email where you highlight Command C, shoot the email? That would be really helpful, because if I'm not prepared sitting there with my phone, like, okay, got it, and then highlight it, I'm going to miss it. And then I have to be like, wait, is this the right chapter? Does this chapter go with this week? Which link goes with which? It's a little unorganized. I just need a little side piece that tells me.
Definitely hear you there. Latisha, what's one thing you'd like your instructors to know?
Also, I saw in the chat, Ms. Dunn asked about our preferences, and my classes are online on a schedule. I did see that question there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my doctor has me online on a schedule, but it does work for me. I made the dean's list. I'm also Phi Theta Kappa, and I struggle with math, but my grades are actually pretty decent. So I'm doing okay. But the one thing that I would say to the professors is if they would remember that all of the students are not coming straight from high school. Some of us may look like we're coming from high school, but we're not. And I think that's some of our fault, because we forget that we need to ask questions. And I think I got that from Professor Gardner, because she's a wonderful professor, and all of my professors are wonderful. But the one thing they tell us is that they don't know we have a problem if we don't ask a question. And sometimes we sit and we don't ask because we're in a classroom full of young people and they pick it up so fast and we don't pick it up as fast. And I'm up sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning studying, trying to pick it up, and they've picked it up like this. But yeah, I think sometimes the professors they forget that everybody's not fresh out of high school, and it's going past us like race cars. And, they're on to the next chapter, they're on to the next page, and we're still kind of lost. Like, maybe I'll pick it up tonight, that would be my own suggestion. Just if there was a way that it could be taught where we kind of get it, because sometimes I don't get it. And I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm scared to say something because they're gonna be like, oh, here we go again. Miss Tish didn't get it, so I don't know how to ask that question where the kids, the kids are not waiting for me. I think that's the whole issue. I don't want them to wait for me. So if there's a way that it could be maybe taught that, maybe us middle-agers could get it. That's all.
Thank you so much, Latisha. Christine, what is one thing you'd like your professors to know?
Well, first of all, kudos to every panelist. You guys are like, I'm just inspired by every single one of you, especially Miss Tisha. Like, just hearing your story is just really incredible to me. But one thing I would ask for is transparency of just what course material you are using. So I mentioned this earlier in another session, and I don't know if there's like a stigma around open educational resources or like not turning in a textbook to like the bookstore, but kind of like from my experience, I also worked for Follett Corporation, which is a big bookstore chain in a lot of different colleges. We don't get the book like list that you want or what you need in time. And so like at a certain point, we have to order a certain number of books per who's enrolled in your section. And then your department chair may approve like, oh yeah, well, yeah, just make this the staple book. And so now the bookstore has misinformation. The syllabus is outdated because it has the ISBN from an old edition. And then we get your like introductory email from your class and it's like, oh, well, you don't have to buy the book, or here's a link that you can use, or, you know, I don't need the access code. You just need the physical book. If you want it, here's some other resources. Sorry, in the background. But it is really difficult as a student and, you know, even like working for the bookstore where we're like, students are like, is this required? Is this not required? And we're like, yes, question mark. Like, I don't know how to help you because we don't have all the information. And then even just being a student, I have like a professor give me the syllabus and then like it says on the syllabus, wait for introductory email. So I wait for the introductory email. And yes, it is the voice of a future college student. This is my pastor's son, and she's like, you're going to take my kids to college and you're going to teach them Black culture. I love her. But anyway, like pretty much, so get the introductory email and it's like, this is the link to the book. Do not buy the book. But like, we all know, like as much as we would love students to read, they don't always do that. So now what if the student goes and buys the book? But like, they didn't know that you had the free access. And so why couldn't that free access information just be on the syllabus? And again, they're still learning a lot about higher education and the different rules that come out, but I'm wondering if we can make a collective conversation to make the textbook process more transparent for students so that it's easier on the bookstore as well. I mean, when I worked for the bookstore and I worked there for 4 years, we had students come in and purchase a shrink wrap book, which if you know that, once you open it, we can't accept it back because the assumption is that you use the access code. So students will purchase it, they use the access code or didn't use the access code and now they're stuck with it. I mean, it's just a lot of like difficult things that are going on. And so I would love, love, love to see some more transparency about exactly what textbooks are being used.
Thank you so much. So I do want to go to a couple of questions in the chat. And so there is kind of a follow-up on this topic that Christine was just talking about. And that is, do you all have any sense or any ideas of how instructors could better signal, you know, that they're using openly licensed or free materials to you? How could they be more transparent?
I would love to see it on sorry, Maria, but I would love to see it on the syllabus or even like, I'm not exactly sure 100% how the course like information when you enroll is who puts in that description, but maybe even if that's something in the description. So for example, at HCC, there's like these little bubbles that say like no textbook or, you know, low cost textbook or textbook included. So I'm wondering if there's an additional bubble that says, you know, online textbook or OER class or something to that magnitude, just so when you enroll, you are aware. I'm not gonna lie, I will literally scroll through every class and look for one of those bubbles. And that's not to discredit any professor that doesn't use that. I just think that as a student, that was very attractive to me. So that's what I would love to see is maybe some more information on the enrollment side.
Awesome. Maria, you were saying something?
Yes, so that second part of the question, he said that some people may not know what OER necessarily is. And so information is very important, I feel. And so maybe, oh man, but see, some people don't listen to that orientation in the beginning. When you think about it, you know, like the one that tells you not to bring a rifle to school and whatnot. And so, but yeah, just informing them. And like Christine said, she kind of stole it right out of my mouth about the syllabus, put it on the syllabus. And then another thing is don't underestimate the power of Rate My Professor, because I use it every single time. It's something they taught me in Avid. Look yourself up. You might be insulted, but you know, it's good criticism there. You know, these are honest people that are well, some of them are angry because they didn't pass the class, but look on there and I love using it. And sometimes it'll say on there like, hey, he doesn't use the textbook, he uses Learning Web, and so that's something that's really helpful. And so Daniel, as far as implementing OER, I'd say talk to your campus about a way to inform people on what it actually is to begin with. And then until then, use your syllabus and, hopefully that'll get you where you need to be.
And I'm so sorry, jumping back in to go more off of what Maria is saying, but I used to be an orientation leader at Lone Star, and we had 20 minutes to talk about the bookstore. And we would go through the different types of books that you can buy, what you can get. And I think even if institutions can incorporate books into their orientation, I really think it is powerful. When we would do our campus tours, I used to walk people into the bookstore and like show them the tags and like tell them the difference, talk to them about renting. That is a whole like larger conversation of modifying your orientation structure. But I do think that if there is a collective number of professors or administrators that are interested in implementing that, I definitely think it can be done and be very useful.
That is great information. Thank you all. I could listen to you all afternoon. I'm sure people could as well. And I'm sorry, to sort of cut it off, but we got to move to our closing session. So if everybody, I know we can just give a round of applause to these amazing students. Thank you so much. Seriously, y'all are really amazing. Lots of praise in the chat. If you get a chance to scroll through it, please do. Okay, at this point, what I'm going to do is kind of transition to the closing remarks, and I am going to share my screen. So hopefully that works. And invite Judith Sebesta to come up with me to the virtual stage, so that we can talk about some final thoughts, some final sort of tying up some loose ends. So the first thing I want to do is just extend my hearty thanks to everyone who joined us at Open Texas 2021. This has just been a great conference. And so I took a little screen grab of our Padlet exercise to see where everyone's coming from all over the state of Texas. And it's really, really cool to see so many people engaged in open educational resources and interested in this work. I want to take some time to just thank the program committee. I feel like this work, you can see, to put on a conference like this takes a lot of hands, and these hands were willing and have been so responsive and helpful. They're just wonderful people. So thank you to everyone on the program committee. I want to highlight a few folks who have kind of stepped forward and done really some things that deserve recognition. First of all, the team from UHD, David Ryden, who led the charge, Jocelyn Escobar and Chandra Robertson. You all, like, these folks are the ones that if you see them on a committee, you join that committee because they get stuff done. Chandra is just the wizard of MOUs and all of these things and contracts. And Jocelyn has been helping out. Jocelyn and Heather have been helping out with tech support all the last 2 days. I want to thank Kate Carter for drafting our speaker agreement and Lindsay Ford for designing the PowerPoint slides that everyone's using. Ariana Santiago, Lisa Spiro, and Ursula Pike for working closely with me on the networking sessions that I hope you all took advantage of and enjoyed. I want to take a moment to just really thank the Houston Area OER Consortium, this group of colleges and universities in the Houston area who meet quarterly to talk about open educational resources and how we can grow the use of open in our community. And it's organizations like this that make conferences like this possible, because you need these folks. And so I want to just especially thank my good friend Tanja Connerly, who essentially came up with this idea, who did the hard work of calling these institutions and making sure that we scheduled this meeting and hosted the meeting and made it happen. I want to thank John Lane, who's the current president of HAOER. Y'all, HAO, this is really, really meaningful. I want to hand it over to Judith now. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. Wow. So I want to just start with some final reminders, and I've dropped links into all of these here in the chat for you. Just a reminder that can you just pull all those up, Nathan? I didn't realize they were separate. Yeah, let's start with that. If you can go ahead and pull all those up. Thank you, Nathan. The presentation slides are going to be available via the Texas Digital Library repository. I put a link to that there in the chat. And the session recordings will be available on the OTE 21, the Open Texas 21 YouTube playlist, which is hosted by the Texas Digital Library. And you should have already in your email inbox received a copy of the post-conference survey, but I've dropped a direct link to that here in the chat. Please take a moment to give us some feedback on this event so that the steering committee can work to improve next year's event and future events for you with Open Texas. And then finally, actually two more things. I would invite you to contact us through the Open Ed, the Open Texas email address I dropped in the chat. If you're interested in working on volunteering for future conferences, future Open Texas conferences. And then finally, I think there should be one more on there, Nathan, if you pull that up. There we go. You can join the Texas OER Community Google group that is also hosted by the Texas Digital Library. It's open to anyone, and I dropped in a link to that Google group so that you can join it if you're interested. Next slide, Nathan. On behalf of the Open Texas Steering Committee, I would like to acknowledge a number of individuals who have helped make this conference happen. First, I'd like to thank all the presenters who truly made this event meaningful and impactful, with a special shout out to the amazing students who shared their stories with us just now. I also would like to thank the moderators for helping to ensure smooth implementation of each session, because as a moderator myself, I recognize that that's not always an easy job. And then I also want to echo Nathan's appreciation for all the hard work of the program committee to put together such an exciting program. Next slide. Thanks, Nathan. They've already been acknowledged, but I think it bears acknowledging our host organization again, the University of Houston Downtown. I'd like to thank them for all of their work on this event. And I'd like to single out Dr. David Ryden for his leadership there and on this event. And then Nathan already mentioned their names, but I have to say them one more time because they really are most valuable players for Open Texas 2021. These three individuals, we wouldn't have been able to have this conference without their assistance, as they've been behind the scenes, both throughout the planning process and during this event, working on logistics for us. So just another hearty shout out and thanks to Chandra Robertson, Jocelyn Escobar, and last but definitely not least, Digitex's program coordinator, Heather Walker. And Nathan, the final slide, please. I'd like to just finally thank all of you for taking the time to attend this event, Open Texas 2021. I hope everyone takes good care, and we'll see you next year for Open Texas 2022. Thanks, everyone.